by Dr. Weber. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2466 by Assemblymember Weber and others, and act relating to voting.
Dr. Weber. Dr. Weber. If you are ready to take up AB 2466, the floor is yours.
Yes. Mr. Speaker and members, I rise today to present to you AB 2466, an act clarifying the Voting Rights Act. California Constitution was amended in 1976 to end permanent disenfranchisement and prohibition from voting only people who are currently in prison or on parole for the conviction of a felony. Courts have consistently interpreted this provision in favor of enfranchisement of voters. As a result, until 2011, individuals serving a sentence for a felony conviction could vote unless they were actually serving a state prison sentence or under California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation supervision. The Criminal Justice and Realignment Act of 2011 created 3 categories of sentencing for people convicted of low-level felonies: mandatory supervision, post-release community supervision, and a term in the county jail. These new categories cause tremendous confusion for local elected officials and for voters. Many of you remember 3 years ago we presented a bill to try to clarify this, and we decided to wait until the courts had an opportunity to look at it. Last year in Scott versus Bourne, the issue of voting rights of people sentenced under the first 2 categories of local supervision was finalized. And with the support of the Secretary of State, more than 50,000 people under mandatory and post-release community supervision had their voting rights restored. While Scott versus Bourne resolved the question of voting rights of people under mandatory supervision and post-release community supervision, the court's decision did not adequately address related issues for similarly situated inmates sentenced to county jail under realignment. The ambiguous term of imprisoned in the voting context has generated confusion around whether people sentenced to county jail under realignment can vote. AB 2466 amends the election code to reflect the decision in Scott versus Bourne and to clarify that the 3rd category of realignment sentencing, a term in county jail, likewise does not strip people of their constitutional right to vote. This clarification completes the restoration of the law prior to realignment. Only those serving a state prison system or on parole under California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation supervision lose the right to vote. AB 2466 eliminates confusion and avoids litigation by clarifying the election code. Specifically, this bill amends the election code to mirror the language of the constitutional provision of voting rights, voting eligibility. It codifies last year's court ruling in Scott versus Bourne by defining parole as a term of supervision by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. It defines a term imprisoned for purposes of voting as a state prison or federal prison sentence. And it clarifies a juvenile adjudication is not a conviction and does not bar a juvenile from voting if otherwise eligible. Lastly, it clarifies the information courts are required to transmit to election officials regarding felony convictions statute to ensure accurate voting file maintenance. This bill does not change the penal code. I want to emphasize that it does not change the penal code, affect any interpretation of realignment, or require sheriffs or other law enforcement agency to do anything new relating to voter registration or voting. Instead, AB 2466 simply provides guidance to local elected officials and the Secretary of State to ensure the constitutional provision on voting eligibility to apply consistently across California. AB 2466 has the support of nearly 50 organizations ranging from the League of Women Voters. It also has the support of the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, and numerous other civil rights organizations. These organizations support AB 2466 because civil participation can be a critical component of re-entry, as has been linked to reduce recidivism. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for AB 2466.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Mr. Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this measure. AB 2466 creates an unwarranted loophole that blatantly ignores California's longstanding policy of not allowing incarcerated felons to vote. It makes no sense to allow for convicted felons serving their sentences in a county jail rather than federal or state prison to vote. As a point of reference, the Criminal Justice Realignment Act of 2011 changed where thousands of felons would be housed, such as county jails. However, it did not change the felony status of their crimes. A felony crime and a conviction are still felonies, regardless of where the felon serves their sentence. Felons who have intentionally decided to reject our laws and make our communities less safe have also decided to forfeit themselves from the same important aspects of life outside prison that we law-abiding citizens experience. It's not the system that has put them in this position, but rather their choices. So instead of allowing felons to play the victim, we should be empowering them to take ownership of their decisions and work their way back to full participation in our civic process. Members, I ask for your no vote.
Mr. Harper, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. The California Constitution is clear. The legislature shall provide for the disqualification of electors while serving time for the conviction of a felony. This bill would allow convicted felons who are serving their sentence in a county jail under realignment to vote. Proposition 47 paved the way for more felons to serve their sentence in a county jail rather than an overcrowded state prison. Under this bill, those felons would now be able to vote simply because they were moved from a prison to a county jail. Whether a felon is serving their sentence in a federal, state, or county facility should not matter. To be consistent with the Constitution, their voting rights should not be reinstated until they have fully paid their debts to society. Mr. Speaker, I do not see the pressing reason why this body should vote yes in order to make sure that more felons can vote in the state of California. If you agree with me, please join me in supporting a no vote against this measure.
Seeing no additional discussion or debate on this item, Dr. Weber, you may close.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I rise again asking you to support AB 2466. We've had this discussion before, and this body has approved this bill 3 years ago, and we waited to find out what the courts would do. The courts have interpreted and gone back to the original provisions of the Constitution that there are two categories: if you are serving in a prison and that has been defined as a state or federal prison, or you're still on parole, you are ineligible to vote. Anyone else is eligible to vote in California. And our Secretary of State has agreed with us. The courts have agreed with us. This codifies it into law and once again keeps down the confusion where you have where you have registrars of voters throughout the state doing different things and disenfranchising individuals. It is very important for us to make sure that people understand when they temporarily lose their right to vote, because California is not a state that permanently disenfranchises individuals. We are much more progressive than that. We believe that voting is a fundamental right. It's a responsibility of individuals to participate in their government. We recognize that in everything that we do. We recognize in the original elements of this country in which we've developed that there was a battle that was fought about the right to vote, basically saying no taxation without representation. That everyone wants a right to participate in the representatives who represent them. This bill once again codifies into law. It doesn't change anything, but it codifies our original intent of our Constitution, that there are reasons why people have temporarily lost their right to vote, and that is if they're imprisoned, and that has been defined as federal or state prison, or if they are under parole. I respectfully ask for your aye vote to clarify this so that our voting rights and responsibilities are consistent across the state. I ask for your aye vote for 2466.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. With that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. 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 All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 41, noes 33. Measure passes. File item 209, pass and retain. File item 210, AB 2007 by Mr. McCarty. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2007 by Assemblymember McCarty, an act relating to youth athletics.
Mr. McCarty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This measure is related to concussion management for youth sports. The state of California has got a long way to protect youth athletes in high school sports, but frankly hasn't done enough for youngsters participating in sports across California. This bill would bring about these reforms in recent years, such as focusing on the instant removal of an athlete suspected of sustaining a concussion and making sure that individuals who have a concussion have written clearance from a licensed health professional before they return to the playing field. I also want to note that we've worked hand-in-hand with the Vice Chair of the Committee on Arts, Entertainment, and Sports to try to narrow this bill and understand what the specific categories are. Haven't come to a total conclusion with them yet, but we're continuing to work. So I ask that we vote for this bill today to help improve safety for our youngest athletes in California. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarty. Mr. Obernolte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise in reluctant opposition to AB 2007. I say reluctant because I am very supportive of the author's goals of reducing childhood concussions in California. I met Dr. Omalu earlier this year. I was deeply affected by his dedication to this cause, and the author has been very generous with his time in working to try and craft something that's supportable, a supportable version of this bill. However, I think we need to remember that the number one health problem for children in California is not concussions. The number one health problem for children in California is obesity. And the problem is that this bill imposes substantial new restrictions on childhood sports programs in California. So the question I think we need to answer is how many of those sports programs will no longer be available to our children if we pass this bill? And we can have a disagreement about the number, but the number is not zero. So I think the metric that we need to use when we consider this bill is the overall health of our children improved by reducing concussions but giving them fewer outlets of exercise? Now, I'm convinced that we can craft a workable solution to this bill that achieves the goal of the bill without imposing restrictions that cause these childhood sports programs to close. But until we do that, I must urge a no vote on AB 2007.
Thank you, Mr. Obernolte. Seeing no additional yes, Mr. Cooley, you are recognized.
Colleagues, I want to rise in support of this bill. In 2014, I had AB 2127, which was a bill dealing with concussions. That bill, when it was signed into law, was on the next day, it was on the Today Show, the Evening News. It was on National Public Radio the following a day later, their big story of the day. It was interesting as I authored that bill. Many of you have the experience, we have cards that occasionally come in. And I had a card come into the floor to me when that bill was being considered, AB 2127, and it was the most remarkable card that I'd ever got. It was from John Madden. A card was sent in on behalf of Coach John Madden saying he wanted to talk to me about that bill. And when we eventually talked, what he expressed to me was, you know, the bill does not do enough. It dealt with middle school and high school. It didn't deal with, it dealt with concussions. It didn't deal with the susceptibility of children who are still growing to have broken bones, have their growing plates disrupted. It was remarkable to talk to Coach John Madden and hear he saw a need for the well-being of kids to be safeguarded. So I think the National Football League and others, the NCAA has focused heavily on concussion. There's lots of groundbreaking work that has happened in the development of protocols, ways to speed consideration, tests of mental acuity, and I know there's members in this floor who've had family members who've had those sorts of issues in the wake of a concussion. So I think this bill will surf on the wave of all of the great work that has flowed from Dr. Omalu's research and the reaction of the NCAA and other sports to this. And I think it is definitely something that is moving through our culture and awareness. So this is this preserves our sports as we love them and enjoy them. And I urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Seeing no additional discussion or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 43, noes 16. Measure passes. File items 211 and 212 pass and retain. File item 213, AB 2765. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2765 by Assemblymember Weber and others, an act relating to sentencing.
Dr. Weber.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I stand before you to present to you AB 2765, which assists counties, district attorneys, and local courts that are working together dutifully to comply with one of Prop 47's mandates. This bill has no opposition, and I'm grateful to the many members of the law enforcement community in support of this bill, which includes the Police Chief Association, the District Attorney in San Diego, who's a co-sponsor of this bill, the L.A. District Attorney, Jackie Lacey, and the Alameda County District Attorney. The L.A. County Board of Supervisors are co-sponsors, and CSAC and a number of other county boards around the state are supporting this bill. And the question becomes why? Because currently the courts and public defenders and district attorneys are processing record changes for eligible individuals with Prop 47 offenses, use a streamlined administrative process to complete the task of making these administrative changes. Under the ballot measure, petitions filed as early as next year will require a hearing by the court before they can be approved. A costly and time-consuming process that has the potential to bring court processes to a standstill. In San Diego County, our DA estimates that there are nearly 200,000 records left to be processed. In L.A. County, that number stands anywhere between 800,000 and 1 million eligible records. I want to extend my personal appreciation to my Republican colleagues and their consultants who helped work closely with my office and the diverse group of co-sponsors supporting this bill to reach an agreement for a 5-year extension of the administrative process beyond the current deadline. This bill will protect local government resources and allow for a greater local control and management of court functions in light of the demands facing them. In the absence of 2765, district attorneys supporting this bill anticipate they will receive thousands of these filings per week as public defenders race to limit the number of court proceedings that would be required in the absence of this bill by filing as many petitions as possible in advance. We can prevent this sort of mass filing situation by blocking up our courts, by extending the administrative process for 5 years as proposed under the bill. The bill requires a 2/3 vote because passage of this amends the voter-enacted language of the ballot initiative, Prop 47. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this, what I consider to be very reasonable and necessary measure in order for us not to consume unnecessary resources in our courts and to basically provide an opportunity for our district attorneys and those in our court system to effectively and adequately and efficiently respond to the demands of Prop 47. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for 2765.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Mr. Bonta, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise in support of AB 2765, and I signed on as a principal co-author after I held a hearing of the Select Committee on the Status of Boys and Men of Color last month in Oakland on Prop 47. It became very clear to me at that time that this bill is necessary to allow us in California to deliver on the full promise of Prop 47. At that hearing, it became clear that the reclassification relief offered by Prop 47 has a significant impact on those who can access it, but due to the limited bandwidth of our courts, that relief is still pending for many folks. And with the sunset approaching next year, we still have a long way to go to fully provide that relief to all those who are eligible, including those who have returned to our communities long ago and those who may still be serving time. So this is an important bill because, colleagues, make no mistake about it, Californians eligible under Prop 47 are coming home, back to our communities throughout the state. We must support their efforts to become productive members of our communities and state, and Prop 47 is an important state tool to help allow for that and make sure that those Californians returning to our communities have fair access to jobs and housing and other services. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bonta. Mr. Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, this certainly is a great day for felons on the floor of the Assembly. I'd like to just clearly point out that it's absolutely unreasonable to extend the current 3-year filing deadline. If you need to extend, there already is a good cause process. Why would we want to give it another 5 years? Prop 47 undermines our sentencing laws already. The concept of finality of sentencing, when we start to change this, it endangers our public safety. Simply put, the California Police Chiefs Association recently issued a report, but we don't need to even read the report because we all see in our communities if you talk to your local police chiefs. The report's called Rise in Crime Unique in California. It attributes the direct increase in crime, or it attributes the increase in crime in California, property crime, violent crime, directly to Prop 47. Prop 47 has enough problems. Let's not give them more years. Vote no.
Seeing no additional discussion or debate on the item, Dr. Weber, you may close.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I rise and continue to ask for your support of this particular bill. I think we could debate Prop 47 all day long, and there are many who are for it, there are many who are opposed to it. We can see all kinds of things that happen as a result of Prop 7, positive and negative. We're being asked by those who've been asked to carry out the initiative or the mandates of Prop 47 to be reasonable in this position. All of us know that when a proposition comes before the public, it oftentimes is not well written. It often has some unreasonable aspects of it, timelines and those kinds of things that we then have to go in and try to make happen because the public has asked that they've used the initiative process sometimes because we have been slow to act on issues they want. But nonetheless, whether it's Prop 98 or Prop 47 or whatever it may be, we're faced with actually trying to implement this particular proposition. It is not, and so we're not going to debate it. In our own hearing, in our own committee, we had district attorneys who came to us who were basically were opposed to Prop 47 and still felt very strongly about some of the initiatives of it, but they said in order for us to fairly implement it and not break the bank, we need this particular extension, that those who first did it didn't understand probably how complicated it was, how many people may be involved, and that these folks needed to have the flexibility as the prosecutors and as the defendants to basically have a better timeline to respond to it. If not, then it's going to tie up our courts, and we've already seen what happens. So as a result of having this flood of petitions coming in and filing that's taking place, we're going to find a lot of cases that justice is being denied to individuals for restraining orders or whatever it may be because they're processing so many of these. LA believes they'll be processing, getting at least 2,000 petitions a week if we don't basically deal with this in terms of providing the extension. So I'm asking you not necessarily as a rally person for Prop 47 or whether you believe in the initiatives and things that are there, we have a responsibility as the legislature to basically watch our resources to make sure they're adequately applied and make sure we make an effort to do what is diligent and what is effective. Voting for this initiative basically gives them an extension. They've asked for an extension. We have worked with our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to come to basically make the extension reasonable. We've done that. We have basically taken all opposition off the bill. So that the sheriffs and the district attorneys and there is no opposition to this bill. Everyone realizes that if we're going to be effective with the resources we have and basically do due diligence concerning this, that we need an extension. And for that reason, I ask for you respectfully vote for AB 2765. It is a bill that requires all of us up on it because it is a bill that requires 54 votes, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. With that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 54 vote bill members. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Bill requires 54 votes. All members vote or desire to vote. Dr. Weber? Dr. Weber moves the call. File item 214, pass and retain. We are at file item 215, AB 2492 by Mr. Alejo. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2492 by Assemblymember Alejo and others, an act relating to economic development.
Mr. Alejo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is a follow-up to my AB 2 from last year, which allowed certain blighted areas in the state to create what is called the Community Revitalization and Investment Authority, or a CREA. These CREAs will allow local governments to tackle issues facing the state's most disadvantaged communities. AB 2 was a response to the 2011 dissolution of redevelopment agencies, which began to increasingly hamper the state's general fund. But the needs of disadvantaged communities did not go away. The passage and the governor's signing of AB 2 gave local governments a renewed ability to address blight in our state. However, since that bill went into effect in January, some local governments have raised implementation issues about how to go about creating and maintaining a CREA. And in order to address those concerns, this bill makes several clarifying amendments. For instance, it allows the CREA to choose nationwide, statewide, and citywide levels of area medium income to identify an area in need of reinvestment and revitalization. It also allows the CREA to use unemployment data from the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey, in addition to the information provided in the state's Employment Development Department. The bill also changes the way in which the crime rate is calculated, requiring local agencies to compare local data for violent or property crimes and compare it to the statewide average. Members, AB 2 is a landmark piece of legislation that empowered our local governments, and this bill will now help clarify their powers to address blight in our communities across the state. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Alejo. Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Speaker and members, I rise in support of AB 2492. I want to thank the author of the bill, who has persistently been working on making sure that our local government agencies have the economic development tools necessary to address the blighted and economic distressed matters within their jurisdiction. So on behalf of the 56th Assembly District, we want to thank the author, and we urge everyone to support AB 2492.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Seeing no additional discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 44, noes 24. Measure passes.